Good afternoon and welcome to our World Hour of Power. We're doing today something special, which is an entertainment piece, and it's going to be called Our World Entertainment. Once we get everything all set up, and as you know, I'm Lady Pauline, and I have a special co host for this segment of the show, and her name is Denise. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Lady Pauline.
Yeah,
So thank you for having me here with you,
Yeah, I'm
dear.
glad that you're my co-host for the entertainment part of our World Hour Power show.
I really appreciate you inviting me along, and I am looking forward to the goodies you have in
Yes,
store today.
yeah,
Sure.
we're gonna be bringing on a gentleman that's been around for a while. His name is Chapman Roberts. He's a four-time Grammy recipient, and I believe his first play was on Broadway was in 1968. Am I correct, Chapman?
That's correct.
All right, and it was hair.
1968.
Yeah, and it was hair. So welcome to our world. All
Ah,
right.
speaking of hair, that's right.
Welcome to our show. Welcome to our show,
What a
Chapman.
segue. What a segue.
So, Chaplain, the audience would like to know how long have you been in show business?
Well, if my Broadway career started in 1968, but I was in music before that. I was the conductor of the United States Army Chorus in European Special Services for a couple of years. So it's been, I would say, 55 years.
Oh boy, okay, 55 years. So
But
basically,
actually, I made my uh, professional debut when I was 5 years old, singing with the Cleveland Orchestra.
oh, very
So
interesting.
that was 73 years ago.
Ooh, okay. That's awesome. Denise, what do you think? I mean, both of you, why I have Denise as my co-host because she's an entertainer. So
Yeah.
she's coming from a different perspective than me. I'm just the host of the show, but what I always found interesting is what make people go into show business. What would make you decide to be an entertainer?
Well, I actually went to see Hair when it opened. It was in previews, and was sitting up in the balcony in a $3 seat, and I saw them on stage, and I said, I can do that. And a week later, an audition notice was posted that they needed one more person in the cast, and I went to the audition. It was at a rehearsal studio at the corner of 46th and Broadway. There was a Howard Johnson's on the corner on Times Square. And the line was around the corner. Kids would run away from home to come and audition for the show. I stood in line and I went in, and when my turn came, and I sang, "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine." And I thought, you're doomed. And I turned around and I walked out. Then I got a phone call from them and they said, will you come back? So I went back and the line was around the corner. And then one day I got a phone call and said, would you like to join the cast of Hair? And I said, when? They said, now. I said, I can't, because I was at the New York College of Music studying voice and I was in finals. And I said, I can't because the Army's paying for this and I got to finish this course. They said, no, 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 you don't get it. This is Broadway. I said, yeah, I know, but I got to finish this course because the Army's paying for it. And they said, when do you finish? I said, in about 3 weeks. So he said, okay. He hung up the phone. 3 weeks later, the phone rang. He says, have you finished your course? I said, yo, who's this? He says, this is the stage manager from Hair. Are you ready now? I said, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll come. So I went to the theater. I know this is a long story, but it was quite something. I went to the theater, and for 2 weeks, I stood in the standing room and watched the show. Never had a rehearsal, nothing. And one day, it's come a tap on my shoulder at intermission, and the same stage manager says, you're going on for the second act. I said, where? He said, onto the stage. I said, but I don't know what to do. He said, you find out because the curtain's going up. And I walked onto the stage, and when I finished, the rest of the cast turned around and said, welcome to the tribe.
Oh, that's awesome.
I faked my way through the whole thing. I go, where are we going? What are we doing? Why am I here?
I love stories like that. I really do, you know.
Oh man, that's a great story. It's like throwing the baby in the pool,
Yeah,
so people can swim, right, Chapman?
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk about throwing the baby in the pool. A buddy of mine took his son. He would take his son fishing, and one time his wife said, "Well, I want to go." He said, "You sure you want to come?" She says, "Yeah, I want to go." He says, "Okay, come on." They went out and got in the boat, and suddenly he just turned and he picked up the baby and threw the baby into the lake. My baby, my baby. He said, "You wanted to come," and the baby was going, ah, ah.
oh
Even his
my
wife said,
God.
she never asked to come again.
Well, you know something, Chaplain? You and my co host Denise have some things in common, which are both of you are entertainers. You're both used to being on stage. Um, I've always been on the radio, so basically behind the scene, and I love talking to entertainers. Is something that's awesome just to be able to get on stage and have sometimes hundreds or millions of people watching you perform. And Denise, uh, what is it really like? The first, can you both tell me uh, your first remembrance of being on a stage? How did it feel?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? To really take it back, I like that Chapman went as far back as he did, but my first appearance on stage, I swear to you, was in the first grade, and
Mhm.
it was a little class play. And my mother made this grass skirt for me because it had like this Hawaiian theme. And the song was, maybe your listeners would be familiar with it. Chapman probably would. I want to go back to a little grass shack and na 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 na, right? And I will never forget. My mother made this cute little grass skirt for me, and I was told to walk. The stage was plotted out, as you well know, Chapman. You know, you're supposed to go and hit your spot, right?
Right.
Uh, and this was my one and only actually appearance in the theater, I might add. Let's just be clear about that. And I remember coming out, and I knew that I was supposed to walk this way, that way, get to the center spot. And I got so excited because the audience, started reacting. And my mother tells the story that I kicked my little leg out from between the grass skirt and did this little move, and the crowd went wild. So I think that was probably my first introduction, to performing. But
Mhm.
certainly, I am extremely more impressed with anyone who ventures into the theater because I'm sometimes lyrically challenged with my own music, but I'm always impressed with those who are actors because it's like remembering those lines, Chapman. Now, what I want to know is the secret, to being on stage and just really memorizing all of those lines for what, 2.5 hours worth of dialogue, and movement. I'm always so impressed by that.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment that's challenging, uh, and I find that in retrospect, I'm horrified about what I. I'm horrified right now. I'm horrified at the thought that I'm going to have to learn all of that stuff and try to do it in front of those people, and they're going to laugh at me. So I still have
Yeah.
recurring dreams that I'm standing. Excuse me. Sorry. I have a recurring nightmare that I'm standing in the wings. The orchestra is playing the introduction to the song that I'm supposed to sing, and I don't know the song.
Oh,
To this day,
that,
they call it the actor's nightmare. I completely have it. So what I remember most about memorizing lines is horror
Oh wow.
at the challenge.
maybe that's the impetus for getting it right. I don't know. That may be the magic potion for
so
making
chat.
sure you get out there. Yeah,
So
because in high
Well, I got
school,
another story. I'm sorry. I know I'm full of stories, but I'm an old man. Of course, I'm full of stories. But the idea is that I used to be I was the first African American actor to play the role of El Gallo in the Fantasticks. Hmm?
Oh,
So
okay.
I played it for a while, and then I pulled out because I'm crazy about being on the stage. But they said, "Well, you stand by because you live near the theater." I said, "Yeah, I'll stand by," and I had to call in every day to say that I'm here. So I called in and I said, I'm here. They said, we won't need you. It was on a Saturday morning. And some friends of mine called and said, we're going to the beach. Would you like to come and go? I said, well, sure. So I'm about to leave the house. And they said, here's a brownie. Have a piece of brownie. I'm about to leave the house and the phone rings. And they said, hey, Chapman, you got to come in to do the show. I said, what? You got to come in to do the show. And then I started to feel funny. What I found out was they had put LSD in the brownies. And they
Oh,
didn't
okay.
tell me. And they were going to see how I freaked out in the car on the way to the beach and laugh at me. I had to go in and do 2 shows back to back of the Fantasticks. I had to juggle, I had to sword fight, I had to swing around poles, and I had to do long monologues. And the audience looked like they had elephant ears. It was the craziest thing in the world. But I was able to get through it because I had overcome my horror of memorizing, and I knew that I really knew the show because I was able to do it on LSD. But I promise God,
Oh my
this,
goodness.
I'll never touch this stuff again, God, because I love you. I love you. You know I do. Help me. And I got through.
Oh my
Never
God.
touch it again. Sorry.
That's all right. Now, I want to say something because it is still Black History Month, and I have to take my hat off to you for all your achievements and all the achievements that you have contributed to the industry. Um, I would like to know what advice would you give to a young person today that is interested in entering the theater, or I would say entering into show business, period?
I would say don't do it.
Okay.
I
Oh,
would say don't do it. You see, this is a disaster. I live in the theater district. I'm overlooking Broadway, Times Square. It's all in front of me. This is a disaster. Everybody, I live in Manhattan Plaza, which is a
Okay.
residence for artists. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in this building is unemployed.
Yeah.
Look at Broadway. There's nothing and there's no future for them. And for us, most of us, we have to accomplish something at a very early age. They're aging. They've already lost a year. The dancers can't dance the way they used to. It's a dead end. And when you get finished, or when they get finished with you, which is the way it usually happens, you don't know how to do anything. There's no place to go. To aspire to that as the aspiration of your life is a very dangerous and I say foolish thing to do. Now, if you decide to go in it after I try to frighten you from it, go for it. Go for it. That's how I know you really want to do it. But don't blame me.
Okay. Now, I think I asked you this one time, Denise. Um, when you have arrived or you have made it, are you able to leave your regular 9 to 5 job that you have? And if you are able to do that, are you scared?
girl, you know me. I keeps a 9 to 5 now. I think I told you this when we were in the band early on. We had clipped a cartoon from the Village Voice. You remember the Village Voice, Chapman?
Yes.
And you do too, Pauline. And
Yes,
it
I
said,
do.
yes, and it said, keep your day job. And that was the little cartoon that we kept posted on the wall, where we rehearsed. And I've just been very fortunate that the type of side work that I do, daytime work that I do as a secretary, has always been prolific. In other words, even when I was touring, I was always able to come off the road, take a temp job, make the money that I needed to tide me over, when the music stuff and the entertainment stuff was lean. And then as soon as the music picked back up, I was able to, usher myself right back to doing, my day job. So my advice to young people, and in addition to, I really appreciated what Chapman was saying, because it's really a tough thing right now that young people, in addition to already being at a disadvantage because music programs have been cut so drastically at the elementary and middle school and high school level. Because see, to me, that's where you get that initial orientation into that side of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Now they certainly are influenced by TV and whatever, but our crafts were honed a lot in school. And so, like Chapman said, right now in this pandemic, the opportunities are, so slim at this point. And for dancers and anybody who's a creative, you have no platform, for what you're trying to do. So in this instance, having a day job is kind of useful, I would say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I could, as I continue to have my, my little day job. But I love doing this stuff too. See, this is the fun part of my life.
Okay. Chaplain, I wanted to find out, we hear all the success stories about entertainers and stuff like that. And then if you go back in history, you hear the stories of, I performed, there was no money, I've done this for X amount of years, now I have nothing. How would you describe your situation as far as how has show business been to you?
I wanted to say, and I'm going to get to that in a circuitous way, but Denise, what you are describing is why actors and creative people need to be more openly admired, because they are not only gifted as performers, they're gifted in other ways, and they have great abilities to do many, many, many things. This is, in fact, what makes them great artists, is because they have many capabilities. And in every single role that you play, a different gift comes into play, and a different life description, and a different inner life, and a different behavior takes over. So being able to keep the day job, I was always envious of people like you who were able to perform and do something else, because I didn't know how to do anything.
Oh, okay.
So I was trapped.
Yeah.
I was trapped. I actually had to perform in order to live, because I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The business
I get
has
that.
been enriching and cruel at the same time. I'm currently in a huge lawsuit with Time Warner, Sony Music, Amazon, HBO, Broadway HD, Broadway Network, for stealing my work for the last 20 years and not paying me a dime, and
Oh.
leaving my name off. I helped create the um, phenomenon of the jukebox musical. The first jukebox musical on Broadway was Bubbling Brown Sugar in 1976.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was the vocal arranger for that. And there was a magnificent piece of music featuring the music of Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, U.B. Blake, Billie Holiday, all this great music brought to the stage and put into a theatrical context, which was the first jukebox musical. So a year ago, I see a huge article on Broadway HD, and it says the first jukebox musical was Mamma Mia. I said, oh, really? Oh,
Hmm.
really? Mamma Mia. Well, Mamma Mia, I got news for you.
One.
That was not, because the music of Mamma Mia was ABBA, the Swiss soft rock and roll band. They never
That's
had
right.
their music played on a jukebox. Meanwhile, I did Blues in the Night, Smokey Joe's Cafe, Five Guys Named Mo, which was the music of Louis Jordan, and he was the king of the jukebox. Hmm?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you sit there and you look at somebody else take credit for what you invented. You can't know the pain. You
Yeah.
can't know, and I'm glad you don't. It's a
Yeah.
treacherous business and it's an evil business. So now in this lawsuit that I'm in, they're saying this man knew we were ripping him off. And for 20 years, he said nothing. What he did was to wait to build up his grievances. And Your Honor, we are offended. He's trying to elevate himself onto a pedestal of greatness, and we want you to dismiss this case. And they're discussing it.
Mm.
You want to know what this business is like? You don't. You
Right.
really, really don't. And the reason most people don't know about it is because Black people only get to a certain level. When you get to the level of where you start to get royalties from your work and you start to get into the money loop, they do everything they can to stop you. I actually have a friend who told me, Chapman, I got to tell you this. And he told me this 21 years ago. He said, I was sitting in the Westway Diner and I heard some people in a booth behind me. And he said, Chapman, they said they're going to destroy you. They're going to starve you to death. I said,
Oh
really? He
wow.
told me that 21 years ago. And it's still happening now because the way the lawsuit is being negotiated, even if I get the money, I won't get a dime.
Oh wow.
I'm only
That's
going to win the case, but I won't get a dime because of the way it's constructed, because that's it. They don't want you in the money loop.
You know, I've heard so many artists say the same thing, you know, and my family's been in show business for over, I would say, 70, 80 years, you know, and I was told that since a little girl, you know, um, always have a backup. And I love show business. I love it with a passion. And when, as you know my son Joe, when he showed an interest in being a photographer and interested in the field, I was very happy. I knew where it came from. You know, I knew that it was a family thing and it was in his DNA. But I felt very sad at the same time, even up to this day, that you know, show business is great, but it can leave you starving. And a lot of it's the truth. It can leave you out there starving, and it can make you have a very devastating lifestyle if you don't, you don't hone in on some type of other skill, you know.
Yes.
And people do not talk about it. That's why I have a show like this, Chapman, because I want people to talk about the truth about show business. I want people to not just talk about, being on stage, hearing a record being played over and over and say, oh, these people are stars and they must be rich and this and that. And young people, they get excited. They want this, what they see, on television and stuff like that, or what they see on Broadway. But they don't know the sacrifice that has to go along with the field. And I'm very interested in your story. I'm very interested in Denise when I speak to her and she talks to me about the years that she has performed on stage and so forth and so forth. But I always ask the question about the behind the scenes. There is such a thing called show business, and everybody sees the show, but they don't know the business.
Exactly.
It's very true. And Chapman, I'm hearing you and I'm really feeling what you're saying when it comes to just the simplistic, what would seem to be the simplistic recognition of your contribution. You know what I'm saying? To the industry, and for this to be a systemic sort of issue. You know what I'm saying? That was actually one of the things that I was going to ask you about, because your history in the business has been to constantly raise consciousness about the Black musical influence in the theater in particular. I mean, it's
Yes.
bad enough in my business in the record industry, and it's a little bit more obscured in the record industry because they have so many artists in the forefront that are just making that dough. You know what I mean? But there are so many of us like myself who've been in the industry for 30 years, 40 years, and I'm still trying to see a little inch of a royalty check, if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you are really in the forefront of bringing that issue to light, and especially when it applies to the Broadway in particular. The theater in particular seems to be more struck by this exploitation. Are you still working on something to kind of bring the history of Black musical theater to the forefront? Is that something you're currently doing now?
Oh, yeah, precisely. I have the Chapman Roberts Broadway Jazz Festival. We're on the way to Costa Rica in August to do the festival there, in celebration of Afro Costa Rican Heritage Month, the whole month of August. So I'm taking some performers from here and I'm adding some performers from there. I actually got a phone call from a producer in Costa Rica that said that they did Angels in America and they put out a casting call and only one Black person showed up. And so they had to hire that one Black person for the Black role. And so they wanted to know if I would bring Black Stars of the Great White Way, which we did at Carnegie Hall. Norm Lewis and I produced, and we had 100 African-American men on the stage, all of whom had a Broadway credit, and a 65-piece symphony orchestra. And we celebrated the music of Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, U.B. Blake, Fats Waller, Noble Sissle, and we honored Jeffrey Holder, Lewis Johnson, Donald McHale, Stephen Bird, the Black Broadway producer. And it was a celebration of the influence and history of the African-American jazz composer on Broadway, starting in 1921 with Shuffle Along. I brought the family of Noble Sissle, who wrote all the lyrics for the music that U.B. Blake did. Those people told me they haven't received a dime from the estate of their father.
Oh my God.
U.B. Blake's family told me the same thing. Not a dime.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I wanted to say, and I know I'm talking to you.
That's how they do. They keep it on their side of the plate. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. And what young people don't understand is that there's show and then there's business. So while you're doing the show, they're doing business while you're ignoring business doing the show.
I like that. I like that.
Because as artists, you get so hung up on being seen. You know what I'm saying? You get hung up on being able to do what you love. And
absolutely.
In the early years, especially, you know, I remember me and my sisters when we first started to sing. One of the girls, when we were a foursome, one of the young ladies' mom used to take a little hat and pass it around to the family members. You know what I mean? And so we were just so happy to get like what would you get? $8, $10, you know, whatever it was. But we more so love doing what we do, and so you never think about putting the real intrinsic value of what you do on it so that you can ask for that money. You know what I'm saying? We're in a constant harangue with promoters even now about what we're worth, you know, and it's just crazy that follows you, you know, throughout your career. But the thing is to keep plugging away, number one, and to keep raising your value. And sometimes you got to just say no to some of these people, right, Chapman?
Absolutely. I was on tour with the Manhattans, and we got to a Navy base in Virginia. And I got back to my hotel, and there was this lovely young lady waiting in the lobby with this new baby. And she said, "Hello, are you Chapman Roberts?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She says, "They told me you were here. My husband is stationed here, and I want to come and talk to you." She said, "My name is Anita Ward." I said, "Anita Ward?" She said, "Yeah, that's the lady who sang, 'You Can Ring My
Bell.'" Yeah.
I love Anita. She is
standing
the
there in
greatest
front of me,
person on the
and she
planet.
goes, "They told me you could help me because I never got a dime for that." I said, "What?"
Oh, wow.
She never got a dime. What they did was they told her she was doing a demo for a song, and they gave her $50 to do the demo, and then they released it. And she couldn't afford to hire a lawyer to chase the money down because she didn't know where to chase it to. She didn't know what happened, didn't know anything how it got released. Then I escorted Mrs. Louis Jordan to the Blues Awards at the Apollo, and afterwards they took us to an after party, and the limousine was waiting, and was Mrs. Louis Jordan and myself, and Shaft, what's his name? Shaft, the first Shaft.
Yeah, I know. What's
Richard
his
Roundtree.
name? Richard Roundtree, right.
Roundtree, and another lady, and she sang, "Rescue Me, deep, deep, rescue me." She was sitting across from me, and she started talking, and I said, "You know, that's the catchiest thing." I said, "It just stays with you." She said, "Yeah, it stays with me too, that I never got any money from it."
Oh no. How come, Chapman, people, black artists don't really come out and say these things? You may see it like on certain movies, like if you watch the Temptations movie or you watch the New Editions movie, and you see how they had to struggle and beg for their money and stuff like that. But on a whole, you don't hear black artists talk about, we are not getting paid.
Because they blackball you.
Okay.
And they pass the word around which is exactly what my friend heard them saying in the Westway Diner. We're going to starve them to death because they tell people. It was a deposition in my lawsuit 20 years ago with Smokey Joe's Cafe, which is being revived 20 years later because I had to sue back then because they weren't paying me and they were leaving my name off of things. And Jennifer Holliday is singing one of my arrangements from Smokey Joe's Cafe on Ali McBeal. And I go, how did they get that? I own the rights to that. How did they get it? I'm still fighting that. That was in 1998. I'm still fighting it. Okay. So
Well,
But Chapman,
it
let me
passed
ask
the
you a
first
question.
round and they say you are trouble. That's all
Yeah.
they got to say is that you are trouble and you will never work again in this industry. I promise you.
I
That's
believe
Chapman,
you.
very
don't you
it.
find that they wend like this little all your music is being used winds up being in a rabbit hole? Because I know in the case of us, some of our music has been now our the label, the original label was taken over by somebody else, and then somebody else
Yes.
took that over. And so by the time you figure out exactly who owns the rights at this point to whatever, mechanical synchronization or whatever, by the time
Yes.
you figure all of that out, then you got to find the person that you're supposed to talk to
Because
even have the conversation. It's not an easy task, and it could be very expensive if you have to bring in lawyers and forensic accountants. It's not exactly a cheap endeavor. Would you agree?
including an attorney who will tell you to your face, I'll take that case. It's not going to be easy, but I'll take the case. You have to give me a $50,000 retainer, and then we will see what we can do. They don't even say whether you're going to win or not, or whether it's a good case or anything. They just grab the $50,000, and then they call the people that you're suing and say, Chapman Roberts is on the line. They say, oh, okay, alert, here he comes, and everybody starts throwing the hot potato. So by the time you track something else down, it's already gone. And it's gone to the next one, gone to the next one, gone to the next one, gone to the next one. I could tell you stories for hours about that,
I know you can.
including including the settlement offer that they made me 2 weeks ago, which said, okay, so for 20 years we've done thousands of productions of Smokey Joe's Cafe all around the world. And oh, come on, we left your name off of it, but there's no real value in that anyway. But by the way, we're going to offer you this cash settlement. And you know what? Andrew Lloyd Webber's daughter is the editor of our magazine, which goes to 7.5 million people. She will do an interview of you so everybody will know who you are. But by the way, it has to be approved by Smokey Joe's Cafe. So we're going to reinstate your name, but the way it's reinstated and what we say about you got to be approved by the people you're suing.
Um,
So it's
That's
not
well,
the
worth
rabbit
anything,
hole.
but add this into the settlement figure because look what we're going to do for you.
mm,
Right.
This
So,
is
so
what they
Chapman, what is it that we need to do? Would you suggest that we need to do going in? If you're going into the industry, because after the pandemic is over, believe you me, there will be plenty more young people and who are going to want to get into the industry. That's why everybody owns their masters. That's why everybody never lets go of their publishing. You know what I'm saying? These days, I think some up and coming artists are being a little smarter about their rights and making sure that nothing gets away from them. Do you think that there is a solution to that general issue?
do nothing without an attorney negotiating your original contract. Nothing. And they will tell you,
okay,
we don't want to talk to your attorney. Do nothing without an attorney to
attorney.
start with, and an
Now also,
experienced attorney,
mm, I
entertainment
also,
attorney.
mm, I also want to take a step further as getting the attorney. But don't you think that being that we have so many people that's in the entertainment field, there should be like almost a school, a place that you can go before to get the information besides going to your attorney, but like, this is what you should do, if you're interested in being in the entertainment field, and start from the lower ground all the way up, because we have schools that teenagers go to for like the Frank Sinatra school and stuff like that. There's a lot of schools out there, the Alvin Ailey School, wherein people are learning their trade, but they're learning their trade of the art. They're not learning the business.
It's true.
So
It's true.
shouldn't that be part of it?
I think there's some organizations now that are being set up. I think Norm Lewis and Audrey McDonald and Brian Stokes Mitchell are putting something like that together right now. And
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but I know that they're putting it together. There's also a woman named Tony Israel who is doing the same kind of thing to teach Black artists specifically how to protect themselves in the entertainment industry. I'll get that specific information to you, and perhaps you will interview Norm and Audra and Brian about that so we can get the word out.
Yeah, we would like to do that. Me and Denise would love to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great.
Because I'm so into young people and their education on so many different levels. But in particular, when it comes to entering and delving into the music industry, I think what happens is you're very talented, and before you even have a chance to even pull all of that business side together, all you care about is just getting out there and being seen and being heard. And these unscrupulous individuals will come along, scoop you up, and before you know it, they're quote unquote handling you, except you don't really know what they're handling. You don't see the money in, you don't see the money going out, and by the time you get the news, you become like us, Chapman, just trying to figure out where it is.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, I've had to let some young people go, and not just a few, but several of them, because when I say to them, you should be sure in your contract that blah, 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 and they go, no, I don't want to rock the boat. This is my first time, and I just want to get in, so I don't want to make any trouble. And stop. Don't talk to them anymore. You have to drop them because they are their problem.
Okay.
They are their problem. As you said, they're so anxious to get out there and be seen that, no, I'm not going to do that. No, 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 no. And I've had people say to me, Chapman, why don't you just shut up and leave it alone? Just shut up and leave it alone. So I'm not going to do it. Because the history of African-American artistry is getting ripped off. And me at pushing 80 with a bad back, it's very difficult to stand up for yourself under those conditions, because I am the history of African-American art on Broadway, and we're all supposed to die broke and pitiful and now get a GoFundMe page. I'm not doing it.
Yes.
No.
So yes, exactly, exactly.
Here, here.
I take my hat off to you. I take my hat off to you. That's why I wanted you to be on for February for Black History Month to for you to speak the truth, and
Yeah.
and for the truth to be heard.
And they need to stand up for themselves. But when I
Yes.
start with them, because they bring them to me and they say, oh, this is my daughter. She wants to be a dancer and blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, fine. But, she has to be very serious about it, because pain is accompanies dance. And if she doesn't want to go through the pain of having her body stretched in ways that are unnatural, it ain't going to happen. So she can't back off and go, well, I don't feel like going today. And she said, oh my gosh, she already did that. I said, be careful. Be careful. Very often the problem that the young artist has is in fact themselves, because they don't want to take the chance of honing the skill, and they don't want to take the chance of doing what is right for them so that they don't get screwed down the line. I actually had Black producers come to me and tell me, Chapman, you got to get rid of that Jewish lawyer you got, because you asking for too much money and you pricing yourself out of the business. I wouldn't do it. And I can name names and people will get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Black producers came to me and said that. Okay, you know what? The next thing I know, guess who was their attorney?
The Jewish
attorney.
guy.
Yeah.
Well, because at some point, Chapman, we have to all get together and set a certain bar. I mean, in our industry, we tend to have a similar situation with promoters And there and we, my husband calls it fishing. You know, my husband's our manager for Ladies of Sky, and he calls it fishing. We'll get a call out of the blue from somebody who we know is not even related to a particular show or whatever, and they're asking for our numbers. And they just come right out. Well, what are you guys looking for? And we're like, well, wait a minute, hold up. Before you start with all that, where is the venue? How many people does it, does the place hold? What is the ticket price? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's certain things we need to know here up front before we just start throwing numbers out. And then they'll start telling you, well, we can get so-and-so for X. Right. And that's when we tell you, well, then you better go ahead and get so-and-so for X. Because we have a certain reputation to uphold, for sure.
Yes, and you have to protect yourself from being exploited. And if you don't see it coming and say you're not going to do that, then that's your problem. So I'll let them take advantage of me because I just want to get my foot in the door. No. And you have to leave them alone. And sometimes your biggest problem is your own people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your biggest problem is your own people. Because your own people will sell you down the drain. Trust me, they will sell you down the drain, and they will. It's not just other people, our own people. We do it to each other. Trust me, we do it to each other. Okay, and that's another problem. That's another problem because we do it to each other. But I know you have to go. But I got another really quick story. It's kind of funny, but it ain't funny. We were doing Yubi in Philadelphia, and I did this arrangement of a song called Roll Jordan. And the producer and the musical director said, UB Blake ain't gonna like that because you messed with that. I mean, you tore that up, but he ain't gonna like it. So they had a run through, and Mr. Blake came, and when the song came up, everybody got up and walked out of the theater and left me sitting there with UB and his wife. Oh. So the kids sang the song. The kids sang the song, and afterwards, he tapped me on the shoulder. He says, come up to my hotel room. I want to talk to you. And I heard the death march all the way over there. I said, this man is going to fire me. Well, cut short. He told me, son, you're working and that's good. Do what you do and do what you do it best. That's what he told me. And he told me a story about Cab Calloway and stuff that I'll tell you. And Josephine Baker that I'll tell you about another time.
Okay. Excuse me, guys. I have to pay the bills. Okay. We're going for a commercial break.
Yeah.
Hi, this is attorney Stephen G. James. We've been practicing law at this law firm for over 30 years. I'm a former assistant prosecutor in Kings County and currently a defense attorney to serve you better. We work harder to serve you better. So just call us for the lawyers you can trust. 646-905-9000. 646-905-7001. We're located on Sutphin Boulevard, right near Hillside here in Jamaica, Queens, New York, for over 30 years serving the community. The law firm of Stephen G. James. Thank you.
We'll be right back. But first, are you a small business owner looking for solutions? TMI and Partners is a business solution company offering operational, branding, and financial solution. For only $9.99 a month, your company will be assigned a personal business advisor. Well, that's right, only $9.99 per month, no contract, and you're on your way. Call TMI at 347-234-5304. That's 347-234-5304. Or visit their website at tmium.com. Tomorrow, the world will know your business. Is that it, guys? Hello? Did I do good?
Okay, we're back with Chapman Roberts. That's a very interesting commercial, I know.
It's perfect. I wrote both of their names down.
Oh, God. Oh.
That's right, because you need one or the other, Chapman, at the rate you're going.
As a matter of fact,
business.
As a matter of fact, Stephen G. James is not just a criminal lawyer. He's also in the entertainment field as with law. He works with Blue Magic and a whole bunch of other groups and stuff like that. So
beautiful.
I keep him very close to the vest,
Stephen James, I'm going to spread the word.
Right. Yeah, spread the word. Okay, that's great. He would appreciate that. Chapman, I wanted to see that you interviewed, or I should say, worked with Melba Moore and Diane Keaton and Ben Vereen. And what was your take on everything? I know you've met everybody, but what's your take on the
Uh,
actors today?
these are highly gifted people. These are not people who want to show off. These are people who had a gift that they wanted the people to know about. They wanted to be seen. Melba Moore was a retired school teacher when she made her debut on Broadway. She was well qualified to do what she did. And she was the first African American woman to play a role on Broadway that was written for a white woman. And she replaced Diane Keaton in the lead in Hair. Ben came in as a replacement about a couple of months in. Now, in all three instances of the people that you met, they're still there. They're still doing what they do. They're still passionate about it. And they're still the best in the world at what they do. And it was
Okay.
a privilege and an honor for me to sit there. And I was awed by what I saw them do, awed by it. By the way, we were making $100 a week, and we thought we should make more money because we were in the biggest hit in the history of Broadway, and people were coming from around the world and waiting at the stage door just to see us and inviting us to parties just to look at us and stuff. So we went on strike because we wanted to make more money, and we beat them. Let me tell you, we beat them. We went on strike for a week, closed the show down, and they gave us a $10 a week raise, and we were so happy we didn't know what to do. We beat them.
Okay. Ooh. $10 a week
$10 a
raise.
week,
All right. Now,
75
now
cents
you're
a
hitting big
performance.
time, right?
I was going to say that's high cotton right there.
We showed them.
Oh God! Now I want to take things into another little area that might be a little bit sensitive. Now we have Tyler Perry in Atlanta. We also have Oprah Winfrey. We have quite a few black people that are influential. All right, and they are in show business. What do you feel is should be their contribution to this field? Shouldn't they be letting people know the truth?
Yeah, um, I think they both have. You
Okay.
know, their Oprah got sued by a beef corporation in Texas for saying that she wasn't going to eat any more hamburgers.
Okay.
That's dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
That is dangerous stuff. Her going through it for all to see should have been enough for people to understand what happens when you get to a certain level. They can come after you for anything.
Okay.
You are a moving target, but you're not really moving because you're sitting there on camera, and they will pin it down and see how they can come and get you to try to destroy you. Them going through it as an example and succeeding is what everybody needs to pay attention to and not ask them for a handout because they're a living example. Don't you know that Tyler Perry dressed up like a woman? Do you know what that is in the black community?
Yeah, it's sort of like a
Talk about
disgrace.
taking a risk and talk about sensitivity. You know what he did? He fooled them because they thought that's all he was about. And while he was in that disguise, he got his foot and his behind in the door. He fooled them. That was how he got in, because if they knew how powerful and what a genius he really, really was, they would have destroyed him. He fooled them. And Oprah, Oprah is not a talk show host. She's Oprah, but she
Right.
disguised herself as a little fat girl from the South. But that's what she was that's what she intended to do, you see.
Yeah.
And for we ourselves, and I include myself because all my people are my family, we criticize her. We criticized Tyler. I remember what they did to Harry Belafonte. I was his musical director for several years. I know the stuff they did. Lena Horne recorded my stuff. I know Eartha Kitt. They all were punished, beaten up, tried to be destroyed, talked about, laughed at, ridiculed by us. We did it.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, you owe us. No, we don't owe them anything because Black people don't support us. They don't come. They don't show up. Oh, Chapman, I heard you got a show on Broadway. How long are you going to be there? That means they're not coming.
Okay. All right. All right. I like that.
It's
I like
us.
that.
And the reason they will not hire you to be in a place of high prestige is because they know you don't have an audience. That your people, you don't bring an audience with you because your people, how much is it? Oh no, I ain't gonna do that. Oh no. And they do it to my face. That's too much. A producer will not put you in their show because you can't bring an audience. Our people don't support us. That's our problem. Because I'm going to name names.
Go ahead, name the names. I want to hear it.
The Jewish people give their kids when they come home from college and spring break. I'm on the verge of tears because it's a beautiful thing. They give them tickets to Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
And they keep that show up. And it goes back every 5 years, and they send their kids, they send their grandkids, they go and see it again. Yeah, I've seen Fiddler on the Roof 7 times because they support the arts. They support it themselves. And when I see these young people spending $400 for a pair of sneakers, but they won't spend $25 on a discount ticket, which we distribute here at Manhattan Plaza. We can't get them to take the free tickets.
Yeah.
And I know this because I run the theater desk here for years and donated money to it to get tickets for Black people so they can come and see shows for free. And you know what? They don't come. They'll take the tickets, but then they don't show up because the moment it's free, they think it's not worth anything because I didn't have to overpay for it. Things they don't have to overpay for, they're not interested in seeing. This is a serious problem.
So it's also our faults. Yeah, I got you. But usually, I'm 65, so I can't remember my mother, even though she was in show business and my father was in show business, really saying, "Let's go to the theater." It was hard to get them to take me to the movies, to let out the money to go to the movies. But you don't usually hear Black children say, "Oh, mom, dad, take me to the theater. I want to see what's on Broadway," and stuff like that. And I think it starts in the home. If you have parents that are supportive of the industry, they will say to their children, "Okay, you're graduating. We're going to go see, a play on Broadway or something like that," as opposed to let's go out to dinner and go to the movies.
I'll never forget.
Let's go to the mall.
Right. I'll never forget. I took both of my nieces when they were about 15, 16 years old to see Alvin Ailey. And I want to say that the looks on their faces was priceless. Their jaws were literally like when the curtain opened, right? And the dancers and the production began. I took them to City Center, Chapman. Their mouths were open the entire performance. And it warmed my heart because both of them at the time were interested in dancing. But I said to myself, it is important for me to expose them to these kinds of things more often. Like you said, instead of running to the mall, spending up your money in Old Navy or wherever you shop, bring them to these live theatrical productions. And I'm telling you right now, I'm so sad that Broadway is closed. That I don't have the opportunity because those girls are now big. They're all in their 20s now and with families of their own. But I got another set coming up, my other grandnieces, and I can't wait to take them, to a theatrical production on Broadway so that they can just feel that happening in the moment, in real time. You know what I mean?
You
Got it.
know, this experience that we're having here, there's a thing with radio that is essential to theater, and it's what you hear, okay? Because this is a form of intimacy here, radio. The same
Yes.
thing happens in theater. It's a form of intimacy. And being in that environment, experiencing an artistic event is extremely important to the psychological effect it has on the human being. That's what made it
Yes.
important, is the intimacy of people sharing an experience. And if we don't share these experiences with our children, they're not going to put a value on it. That's what's
Uh,
extremely important that we do it. But see, we have another problem. Savion Glover is my godson. His mom, Yvette, they came to her and said, Sister Glover, that boy is down there in the graveyard doing jumps and stuff off of the tombstones, and he's going to bust his head open. You need to go and get that boy. You know what Yvette did? She put him in tap dance class.
okay.
You got energy you want to use, you want to jump up and down? Good. Let's reroute that energy. And the rest is history.
I hear you.
You got my
Truth.
drift? Our responsibility to it. Not what they're going to give us, it's what we give ourselves.
South.
She retapped that energy. She raised her own child. And we have another problem because in the Black community, and yes, I'm angry about it, we teach our children about theater. You know what we teach our children about theater? That it's gay. That's what we teach them.
That's true. I did hear that. Yes, I have heard that remark. I have. I have.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's the
think
problem
that
because the boys ain't going nowhere
this
near it. The boys ain't going
is
nowhere near it. Except I got several buddies who went to dance class because they knew they were going to be the only boy in there, and they
and then you see the
got
girls.
all the attention from the girls. He said, "That's why I went to class. I was having a ball, buddy."
I know, I know. I have a similar story too. My mother put my son in dance school in for ballet, and his father said, "Oh no, 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 take him out. I don't want to see my son in no tutus." But my mother was trying to give him culture, because as I said, we had been in show business for years and years, and my mother believed in ballet and the theater and stuff like that. But Chaplain Roberts, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I am so happy you came on Our World, Our Power. And I have to, get with you sometime in person when this pandemic is over and come sit down with you and talk to you. I know me and Denise will love to come over and talk with you because I know you have so many interesting stories. But we only have an hour and our time is up. And I want to say again, thank you so much for being on Our World, Our Power segment of entertainment, okay? Because this is a new part of our show wherein we're going to be once a month doing an entertainment piece. So I'm trying to get a hold of Melba Moore. Anybody out there knows how to get a hold of her, please let her know. I would like to have her come on Our World, Our Power. And
I'll call her.
anybody, you'll call
He
I'll
said
her?
he's
call her.
gonna
Yes, I'll
All,
call her.
all, all right. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Y'all get ready because she's going to come. Um,
Okay.
so the other thing is Norm Lewis and Audra and that organization, Denise, that you talked about. It's one of
yes,
those. And I know another organization with Tony Israel, who is the diversity director for Broadway. She's got an organization that do the things you talk about. And I'll be sure that they get their information to y'all for them. So I'll reach out to Melba,
great.
to Audra, and to Norm, and to Tony Israel, and they're going to call you.
All right.
Miss Lady,
Thank you.
we're gonna be
This
busy
is
with this. We're
great.
gonna be busy.
Oh, we're going to
What
do
she
it,
say?
Denise.
What she
We're
say,
gonna be
Denise?
busy. We're gonna be busy.
We're going to be busy. Thank you. And you can be part of our show too. Because, I mean, your stories are wild, it's interesting, and it's true. And I like people to get the real information and get it raw.
Yes, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
again, thank you all. You've been listening to Our World, Our Power. My co-host Denise, oh, from Ladies of Sky, a great voice. I love you, Denise. We're gonna be doing big things together, and you've been listening to Lady Pauline, as you know. So Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram and our YouTube channel and Spotify and iHeartRadio. And thank you all. Take care.
Your commercial.